is Vedant, and welcome to my podcast. Today, my guest is Akhil Karanam, a filmmaker who runs a production house that produces television commercials, corporate films, and everything else under the sun that qualifies as a video. He is the founder of Arila Studios in Hyderabad. Hi Akhil, welcome to my show.
Hi Vedant, thank you for having me on your show and congratulations on your all new website.
Thank you. So Akhil, I am curious to know, as an ad filmmaker, what do you do?
Well, as an ad filmmaker, I basically make films for clients that want to advertise a certain brand or a product. Speaking specifically, our job is to write a script according to how a client wants to place their brand, how they want to position their brand to their target audience, and then see to that the message is conveyed to the audience in a crisp and interesting fashion. So that is what basically an ad film is all about, trying to sell a product or a service to the target customer, which is commissioned by a brand or a company in a way that it is engaging, entertaining, and at the same time driving the point across to the audience.
Do you only do ad films or do you also do normal films?
We actually started out to make short sketches like a lot of online channels that are there, like AIB, TVF, etc. But then eventually, because making ad films was a job that came to us naturally, as also because it was not capital intensive, we used to get budget from our clients and not have and we didn't have to invest our own money. We thought, okay, we'd start with ad films first and then move on to making web series and feature films. So since the last 5 to 6 years, we've been making ad films, television commercials, corporate films, etc. I've been scripting an Amazon original series and also in parallel writing a feature film script for my first film debut. Yeah.
Advertisements are super short. How do you get people to remember about the company or product in such a short time?
Advertising is nothing but clickbait. Like you have interesting captions and thumbnails on YouTube videos, which make you instantly go and click on it. Advertising does a similar thing, but with an intention in mind to pertaining to a specific brand. So when we approach the script to a specific ad film that we're commissioned to produce, how we look at it at Arila Studios is we try to think right the opposite of what the client wants to say. That is our approach. So say like if we take an example of trying to write a script for a product like Fevicol, what could we do? I would, if you instantly ask me, I'd say instead of starting to try and tell a story in the ad film, I'd say start with a frame that captures the attention and engages the audience instantaneously. So I probably have the first frame of the ad with people walking on the ceiling instead of the floor. So which is an unusual thing to see. It's not a regular thing. When I show the audience that people are walking on the ceiling instead of on the floor, people are already hooked to it. They want to know what is happening on the screen. And then I tell them, because there's a sheet of tarpaulin that has the ad of Fevicol on it, hence people are able to climb on the ceiling and walk because of its adhesive nature. So this is basically a quirky kind of an approach that the brand Pidilite, which makes Fevicol, usually uses. It is exaggerated and over the top, outlandish, etc. So that is one type of approaching an ad. The other type of looking at a television commercial for a brand is to be telling a story which the audience relates to. So instead of trying to hard sell any product, telling them to say, okay, so this is this product or this shampoo or this soap, please buy it. You tell them a story which they can relate to, which happens in their daily lives, or have characters that speak like they do, or their relatives do, or their friends do, so that the audience viewing the ad relates to it instantly. They relate to the story first. They need to relate to the characters, the story, the atmosphere, the music. And once you do that, towards the end of the ad, you use the logo of the brand or introduce the product, which then automatically connects the audience to the product. So storytelling is the technique that you use to immerse the audience first, which will eventually be used to take them to the culmination of the ad, which is to try and sell the product.
So basically, you need to make it interesting and funny and make people like it.
Absolutely. You make them cry, you make them laugh, you make them feel shocked, you make them feel surprised. Basically, bring out all the emotions that a human can have in the form of stories.
Are all ads super interesting?
I don't think so, because not all films are interesting, not all songs are interesting, not all people are interesting. So, no, not all ads are interesting. And that is what makes advertising a very interesting field to be working in. So, to make an ad interesting, you first need to understand what is it that you're trying to sell? Who are the people who are going to try and use the product? What kind of a geography are your target audience living in? What are their cultural influences? So there are a lot of other factors than the ones that I mentioned here that one needs to take into consideration before writing an ad. So once that is done, you figure out where to shoot it, how to shoot it, which language to shoot it. If you want to tell it in the form of a song, a jingle, or a silent story, or a story with dialogues, or a story without music but with dialogues. So there are multiple approaches. There's a lot of ambiguity when you start writing an ad film, or even when you try to understand what you have to make the ad for. And then you slowly narrow down with all these questions that you have that we as filmmakers ask the client. And once we narrow down as to what we want to communicate, we then start broadening our perspective, see how best we can do it. And then we consider approach 1, approach 2, approach 3, approach 4, approach 5, like the ones I had mentioned earlier. And then take the most relevant path to deliver what best can sell as well as convey the idea of the product or the service.
I don't watch too many advertisements these days. On TV, when there are ads coming on one channel, we just change to another channel. On YouTube, we can skip an ad. On Netflix and Amazon Prime, there are no ads. How do you get people to see the ads?
Well, there are very broadly speaking, there are two types of advertising. One is the paid form of advertising, and the other is the unpaid form of advertising. Unpaid form of advertising is where your ad is so good that you don't even need to pay to push it on mediums like Facebook, YouTube, TV, cinema theaters, etc. You just release it online on a platform like YouTube, and then the ad is so good that people lap it up and then they share it organically. If you're so confident that your film is so good that it will be shared by people organically, you make an ad film and then just leave it out there. People will not even skip the ad, because if it's got a very interesting take on the subject or the brand that you're dealing with, and if it's got a very entertaining and engaging way to have been shot, then you wouldn't skip it. If it is boring, if someone is trying to sell you a toilet cleaner forcefully, which says buy this toilet cleaner, buy this toilet cleaner, buy this toilet cleaner, you wouldn't be interested. And if you're seeing it time and again after in each of the commercial breaks that you see on TV, then you obviously would want to skip it. The core idea, the key to having people not skip ads is to make interesting ads, make the storytelling as interesting as possible. Coming to dealing with skipping ads on Amazon Prime or say Netflix, you obviously do not have ads because it's a paid subscription service. So as long as there are people who would want content for free, like say on Spotify, on YouTube or Vimeo or any of these platforms where there are both options of having to host your content for free and for a premium fee, there'll always be people who need to watch the ad because they cannot skip it, because they're viewing the content for free, they're accessing content for free. You cannot skip ads unless you're a premium user. So some people pay to use the subscription service, some people do not. People who pay to not have ads, not have interruptions by ads, they'll have an option to skip it. Otherwise, you don't have a choice but to sit and watch the entire ad.
I heard that in the olden days, there used to be one channel and you couldn't skip one single ad. I can imagine how that would be.
Yeah, there used to be this channel called, it's still there, Home Shop 18. So it's a channel dedicated entirely to telecommercials, basically. So 24/7, some or the other product would have a couple of anchors and actors, models demonstrating their products and asking you to call them on their hotline and order immediately because there's a flash discount happening at that particular moment. So it was a dedicated channel in itself, and it's still a very successful format that works in a lot of countries.
Wow. What are corporate films?
Corporate films are films that are made to encapsulate the entire ethos, ethics, the idea, the organizational structure, the product a company delivers, etc., to be made known to an audience that is very niche. Basically, a corporate film is something that a business makes for another business, whereas ad films are something a business makes for a consumer. Like if I make an ad film for say company A, the company is going to exhibit it on platforms where Vedant, Divya, and Jaisima are going to be able to watch it. Whereas a corporate film, if it's made by us, the company is going to be showing it in selected platforms, like in, say, their company meetings, in corporate presentations, or to be used at expos that they visit, which is very business to business in the format, basically. So an ad film is business to consumer. A corporate film is made to be showcased to businesses alone.
So corporate films aren't public, like on YouTube or any of those other platforms. It's only there in like these business shows.
No, corporate films are often put on YouTube and on the websites of the companies the corporate film represents, but their target audiences are not on YouTube mostly. Their target audiences are mostly businesses, but then because these days all businesses are online also, so it helps to have your corporate films online as well. So you never know what kind of what business might come across your corporate film and then contact you for business deal.
What is the process of making an ad film?
Okay, so when we are approached for a production for an ad film by a client or an agency, so there are two variants again. You're either approached by the client directly, or you're approached by an ad film agency. When we're approached by an agency, in most cases, the agency is dealing with the client and the production house and they're working as an intermediary. The agency comes up with a script after discussing with the client about the positioning of the brand, the placement, the ethos, the idea of what the client wants to convey through the ad film, etc. And the agency comes up with a script and commissions a production house like Arella Studios. So once we come into the picture, say there are multiple directors or a single director, and the director is on board for that ad film, we sit down and write a treatment for it, for the script that's been given to us by the agency, as to what kind of actors to cast for that ad film, where do we shoot it, what kind of a lighting setup do we have for it, what kind of which cinematographer to employ, who would be able to best showcase the visuals that would enrich the ad film, what kind of a music do we have to have, what kind of dialogue we have to have. So we discuss all that. The director and the agency discuss that, and then once the film is commissioned, there are 3 stages: pre-production, principal photography, and post-production. In the pre-production stage, we decide what the primary crew is going to be: the cinematographer, the composer, the director, the actors, etc. Once that is all decided upon, after the location as well, then we go and shoot the ad film. Once the shooting of the ad film is done, we come back to our studio and then we do the post-production. We edit the footage that we have shot into as many formats as required. Say for television, we generally have 45 to 60 second spots. For YouTube, we have slightly longer, 90 second or 2 minutes also. Sometimes if the client wants a short film itself, we have ads that span to around 6 minutes also. So we edit it according to the requirement of the client, and then we add music to it. We do a lot of color grading. which is color correction basically. So we in the stage of color correction, we get to tweak the colors of each and every pixel basically. To that level of detail, we'd be able to manipulate the color of the pixels that we have shot. And after that, there's dubbing needed to be done for the actors' roles. We do the dubbing, and then we marry the sound of the film with the video of the film, and then we export it together in different formats again. For theaters, we export it in a different format. For television, we export it in a different format. For YouTube, we do it differently. For Instagram, for Facebook, etc., etc. There are different formats that we export the ad film in, and then it is given out to the distribution mediums after that. So this is the entire process of getting an ad film to be shot.
Is words necessary for all ad films?
Not necessary. Not necessary. Right in the very early stages of the inception of filmmaking, there were only silent films. So there was music and text used to convey whatever the director or the writer wanted to convey back then. And eventually we had sound in cinema, and now we have all kinds of new technological developments where there is VR, there's AR, there's 3D, there's 2D, there's all sorts of filmmaking right now. So it is never there's never a prerequisite that you need to have dialogue for each and every ad or film that you do. Sometimes just an expression, just a basic twitch or a gesture of a hand, or some unique gestures of the body language are enough to convey a very complex emotion. And sometimes it does help better than when you have dialogues actually. So it all depends on how the director wants to treat the film. It all comes down to the writer and the director who decide if they have to have dialogues, words, or not.
What are your favorite advertisements? Mine are the Surf Excel 2 rupees one, the MDH one, and over here, I don't know if you've heard of this advertisement. It's called Grammarly.
Okay. So personally, my favorite ads would be the Google Reunion ad, which is about the separation of two old friends, very old friends, who were separated during the partition of India and Pakistan. It was one of the most critically acclaimed campaigns in the recent times, and it had won a couple of Dada Saheb Phalke awards as well. So that would be one of my favorite ads. And another one would be the commercial that Mercedes-Benz had done for Benz Germany, that had the story of Martha Benz, the wife of the inventor of the motor wagon, Carl Benz, where they have shown the story as to how Martha Benz actually pushed her husband to get his invention out in the public, when everyone around in that time, in that point of time in the world, was scared of this thing called a motorcade car. So people thought it was witchery. Something going ahead with four wheels in a very smooth fashion was considered witchery back then. So Martha Benz once took her husband's invention from the garage and traveled 120 kilometers in a span of 6 days with her children, all by herself. So this is the story of the wife of one of the greatest inventors of the century. That was one very interesting, heartwarming television commercial that I've liked in recent times.
Interesting. I'll see those ads. What made you choose to be an ad filmmaker? As a child, what did you want to be?
Since my childhood, I've been a singer. I've been a performer since the age of, say, four years. I've performed live on several different stages in different cities, etc. I'd always wanted to be a playback singer. And eventually, when I was the age of 12 or 13, I started participating in reality shows and didn't like the process very much, because there was a lot of favoritism in the shows I had gone to participate in. So I thought, okay, I took the example of one of my favorite directors, Vishal Bharadwaj, and thought to myself that to create an opportunity for myself to sing for playback, I'd become a writer, then a director, then make my own films, and then employ myself in my own films to sing my own songs. So this aspiration to become a playback singer is what drove me to coming into becoming a filmmaker in the first place. So after my finishing class 12, I chose to directly jump into advertising and filmmaking. And then I studied at Whistling Woods International, Bombay for a 3-year course and freelance for about an year, composing and singing for Nokia India and editing a few projects, independent projects. And then we started off with this company called Arella Studios. And now we are at a juncture where we are writing web series and feature films and pitching it to Amazon, Netflix, etc.
What are your hobbies?
Oh, that's a strange question to ask me, especially because when other people are asked the same question, they say singing is my hobby, watching movies is my hobby, reading books is my hobby. But since I'm a filmmaker, all these things that other people consider as hobbies are my profession as well. So I enjoy my profession so much that I've never had to have a hobby per se specifically. So yeah, I sing when I'm not writing. I write when I'm not singing. I watch films when I'm not doing both those. And when I'm not watching films, I'm writing films. So yeah, if that answers your question.
That's funny. Thank you so much for coming on my show.
It was a pleasure to talk to you, Vedant. I've been very curious myself to see how this podcast goes on because this is my first ever podcast show and I couldn't have asked for a better host than you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dear listeners, follow my Facebook page, Curious Vedant, to get updates on my upcoming episodes. To listen at leisure on your phone and get notified about future episodes, subscribe by searching for Curious Vedant wherever you get your podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can also listen to my show on vedant.buzzsprout.com. Thank you for listening to Curious Vedant, and don't forget to rate and leave comments.